A 13-month-old, happy, healthy baby girl had a 99.999% chance of death, but she survived. Today, I'm going to tell you one of the most bizarre stories of survival that I have ever heard. Let's get into it. On December 31st, 1999, most of the world was celebrating bringing in this new millennium, putting behind them the past problems that they've had and moving on to something new, setting goals and expectations for themselves and spending time with loved ones. But Layla would be in full nest mode. She was 34 weeks pregnant and very ready to have her baby. On February 16th, Layla was rushed to the Alberta Hospital in Edmonton and she went into labor. Just a few hours later, and she gave birth to a happy, healthy baby girl that she gave the beautiful name of Erika to. As Erika grew older, friends and family could tell that Layla was a good mom. She stuck to a healthy feeding schedule and a routine, something to give her daughter a healthy start in life. Layla didn't come for much money, but she really doted on Erika and gave her whatever she could, whenever she could. The day would come when Layla was holding Erika's arms and coaxing her to take her steps forward, and then she did, unassisted. It were her first steps, and it would come just a few months before her first birthday. And by her birthday, Erika was getting pretty good at walking, so much that her mom had a hard time keeping her contained. Just 6 days after Erika's first birthday, Layla and Erika made plans to visit with a friend in the Edmonton area, with the expectation that they would stay the night. So they packed up their car with a crib and bottles, toys, blankets, everything you need to keep a 1-year-old happy and, more importantly, safe. The pregnancy and motherhood had taken a toll on Layla, and so once she arrived at her friend's house, Layla and her friend made plans to go out that evening and go and have dinner, have a few drinks at a local bar. They knew a friend's relative that babysat often and called her to come over and watch the 13-month-old Erika while her mom went out. At 11 p.m. that evening, Layla would return back to the house, pay the babysitter for her time, at which point the babysitter would say goodbye and make her way to the back door of the house. She opened it, let herself out, and shut it behind her the best that she could. See, the door had a broken latch and it didn't shut all the way. Tired from an enjoyable evening, Layla went to the bedroom and laid down on her bed. Erika was sound asleep in the bassinet next to the bed. At 3:45 a.m., Layla would wake up very confused. Like any 13-month-old, Erika would normally get fussy and call out for a bottle whenever it was near her feeding time, which this night was expected to be 2 a.m., but she didn't call out. So Layla got out of bed and reached over to check the bassinet and see how Erika was doing, but she wasn't there. Immediately, Layla's heart started racing, trying to figure out where her 1-year-old was. She wasn't in the bassinet. She didn't hear her get up. Now she had no idea where she went. Jumped out of bed, started turning on all the lights, checking, going room to room, checking to see where she was at, calling her name. But when Layla got to the back door, she knew exactly what happened, and her heart sank as she realized her daughter must be dead. It was February in Edmonton, and the outside temperature was negative 24 degrees Celsius. When she opened the door, she felt the cold air hit her in the face. When she looked down, she saw 2 little bare feet tracks walking away from the house. At the end of the trail, 40 feet from the house, dressed in just a t-shirt and diaper, was her daughter laying in a snowbank. Layla would pick up Erika and take her inside. She was completely stiff. She placed her on the floor and attempted to perform CPR on her while calling for an ambulance. Neither mouth-to-mouth resuscitation or CPR would be successful. Paramedics would arrive on scene and unable to intubate Erika due to her extreme deteriorated condition. They rushed her to the Stollery Children's Health Center where she had no vital signs and would be pronounced dead shortly after. Doctors estimate that she had gone without a pulse for 2 hours and her core body temperature was just 16 degrees Celsius. The doctors were very thorough though in their testing and continued to do whatever they could to try to bring this 1-year-old back. There were procedures in place on how to attempt to revive an extremely cold victim, but the odds of success were very, very small. If a human body is cooled down too quickly, the water in their blood cells will expand and crystallize, killing the tissue around it. If a human body is frozen too slowly, the person will stop breathing before the blood cells are frozen in place, depleting them of oxygen and killing the tissue that way. So in order for this to be successful, the victim had to have been cooled down at the perfect temperature, not too cold and not too hot. So they put little Erika in a warming blanket and attempted to gradually warm her back up again to see if that would work. And after what felt like hours, they heard a beep and then another beep. It was the sound of Erika's heartbeat, and by some miracle, she was alive. But what they didn't know is if Erika would be the same girl ever again, or if potentially she had brain damage. After a while, a smile would come across Erika's face, and they realized that she was alive and responding. Doctors initially thought that given the condition she was in, some of her limbs would require amputation, possibly her feet and her hands. But they would quickly realize that she didn't have much damage and only required a few skin grafts and some physiotherapy. After 6 weeks in the hospital, Erika would be released with no permanent damages beyond scarring and deformation to her left foot. This story is beyond amazing. Erika earned the nickname the Miracle Baby. Doctors reviewed her case file to understand how a small child could stay alive in freezing cold temperatures for hours, with no pulse and clinically dead for more than 2 hours, only to be revived and suffer no long-term ill effects. The hypothesis was that Erika entered into a form of cryostasis, where her body was cooled down at the perfect temperature to prevent crystallization of the water in her body, keeping the living tissue still alive, just depleted of oxygen. Then, once it was warmed back up again, the oxygen would flow back into her blood cells, bringing her back to life. Erika is now 21 years old and considered one of the luckiest people in the world. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed the content, please like the video. If you really enjoyed the content, I would love to earn your subscription. If you know of any bizarre stories, let me know in the comments below. I'd like to check them out. And until next time, see ya.